everyone. Welcome to another episode of BetterTech. My name is Peggy Tsai, and I'm very excited to host today's topic on security versus compliance in IT. So, welcome, Aysha Khan, to today's episode. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Peggy. Excited to be here with you and talking about this topic, which is very dear to my heart.
Great. Love to have you just give a brief introduction to yourself before we dive into the topics of security and compliance.
Sounds good. So, hello, everyone. I am Aysha Khan, CIO and CISO at Treasure Data, a startup in Silicon Valley. I hold the dual responsibility of overseeing the information technology and security aspects of the company. Before Treasure Data, I managed and led many different security and technology domains in companies like HP, Bank of Montreal, CIBC Mellon, Symantec, and Oracle, and that also both in America and Canada. So from there, I moved to Treasure Data almost 5 years ago. And ever since, I've been building the whole security and IT organization ground up and doing what's needed for the business.
That's fantastic. And I know that it's actually pretty rare for a person to have both the CISO, security, and the information officer title role. So this is a perfect question where you can talk about when you put on the CISO hat and when you think about more of an information officer point of view to really explain the fundamental differences between compliance and security, really in the context of IT and data protection.
Yes, going back to your question, how much context switching is happening? It's happening all the time. Why? Because from a CIO point of view, I am looking at internal employee base and seeing how do I make them productive, how I make sure the efficiencies are there and they have all the solutions available for them to innovate. From a security point of view, I'm concerned about the product of our security of our product, providing assurance to our customers. But what has happened in my case is ever since I've taken these two roles, there's a lot of synergy between the two pillars. Because when you're looking at things from a technology point of view, you're already thinking about security. We are a SaaS platform, so we have a lot of technology coming in, vendors, tools, services. So everything that's coming in, having a security pillar underneath helps a lot because now I'm at the forefront of everything, which is going to be part of my ecosystem. So I'm involved in early on conversations and making decisions based on what is right for our ecosystem. So from that point of view, that helps a lot. And even from a security point of view, I keep saying our motto is quite simple. It's everything that we do in Treasure Data, two parts to it. One is simple and secure. So simple, I put that responsibility on our IT piece. Secure, that I put responsibility on security. And second, we need to move shift left, which simply means everything that we do in Treasure Data, from security and privacy point of view, we need to move it to early on. Security should not be an afterthought, so that whether we are coming up with products or we're coming up with services, anything that we do, security and privacy should be part of our DNA.
It's a great explanation, Aisha, and it's a great way to think about the importance of security, to put it at the more the forefront, the beginning of the life cycle. But specifically talking about compliance, is that a topic that's responsibility belongs to the CISO, the CIO, or is there a separate compliance officer that deals with those type of issues as well?
Now, so that's also I'm responsible for under the security umbrella. So the way I have structured my organization on the security side, I have three main pillars. So the first is trust and assurance. And through trust and assurance, my goal is to provide assurance to all our customers. So all of our compliance fall under that pillar. Then the second pillar I have is security architecture. And that pillar is responsible for making sure the product that we are developing, releasing, maintaining, maintains confidentiality, integrity, availability from a security point of view. And then the third pillar I have within security is security operations. And that pillar is responsible for making sure we stay out of the limelight, any security incidents or breaches.
And how often would you say organizations mistake compliance with true security? And what are the potential risks associated with this type of misconception?
Yeah. How often? I really can't talk about numbers here in that sense, but I will tell you this. My sense is one of the reason I post a lot on LinkedIn is this is my way of giving back to my community. And there are a lot of misconception or myths about, security and compliance or even how to build this organization. The other point I want to make here, even from a management point of view, I feel there are two pieces to it. A lot of CISOs are not doing a really great job of articulating the risk in the organization. Our job, first and foremost, is to highlight risk. That's our job, whether it's a compliance risk or reputational risk or operational risk, whatever that is. But even from a management point of view, a lot of CEOs and CFOs and COs, if CISOs are reporting into them, do not have a clear sense of what it means to be secure. So there, what I would like to say is many organizations think compliance is security. Actually, compliance is half-baked security. It's not security. And often I use the word as compliance to me is a subset of security. If you want to do security right, first and foremost, you have to have a comprehensive strategy, which includes policies, procedures, people, resources, technology. You have to look at many different aspects. And compliance is important because in any business that you are in, that business has to fulfill regulatory requirements. For example, we are a SaaS business. A lot of our customers are enterprise customers. So security is really important to them. So when they come and they say, hey, how do we make sure the data that we are putting in your systems as data custodians, you have the right guardrails in place. So from a compliance point of view, we have customers who are asking for things. We have regulatory bodies asking for things. So compliance can take you on your security journey. But if you're just thinking about compliance in itself as security, you have no idea how many risks you're leaving on the table.
Mm. Certainly this is a fairly complex topic, but I think that most people are aware of, the evolving nature and the increasing frequency of a lot of cyber security threats. So organizations need to ensure that their security measures go beyond, just the mere compliance requirements. So what else do you think organizations should be doing to really prepare for these new and upcoming cybersecurity threats?
I will give this answer more from a leadership point of view. The very first thing I would say any organization will be better off doing is alignment between the management, the stakeholders, um, and the expectations we have from our customers. So those are the three main things. So let's start with the first one, the leadership team. So when I say leadership, you're aligned, like for example, you have to align in terms of priorities. Often I see people are talking about, hey, we are not getting budgets for security initiatives. Look, the security landscape is ever evolving. There are always going to be threats. What we need to do is to have a comprehensive strategy in place, which is the security program. But CISOs need to do a job of articulating that value to the leadership, saying, why do we need a comprehensive security program? So it needs to be a bottom up and top down approach at the same time. And leadership needs to understand if you're talking about compliance, if you're talking about staying out of breaches, you can't just pick one or two programs. You have to have that strategy. And then what CISO needs to do next is to work with all the other stakeholders. So in my case, my two main stakeholders are the GTM leaders and the R&D leaders. GTM is go to market, and that's where compliance plays a very big role. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then my second one is R&D, which is actually creating the product. So it's a chicken and egg problem. Imagine you create a product, but it doesn't have good security. Then I will have problem on the GTM side because now I have to take this product to the market and customers and auditors will not be happy with what we have. So we have to do the right thing on the R&D side. And then at the same time, we need to align with our GTM leaders and say, okay, which markets you want to get into, which segments you want to get into, which regions you want to get into, what are the local compliance requirements there so that we can make sure we bake those requirements in our product. And by the time product is released, it is safe, secure, and behaving the way our customers are expecting it to, and their data is secure.
Mm. That's certainly a great framework to have. And I'm actually curious, Aisha, certainly with the current news, there's certainly a lot of regulatory frameworks that are out there. Everyone has heard of the different risk NIST, NIST risk frameworks. So what's your opinion on how these regulatory frameworks are keeping up to pace with the fast changing landscape of cybersecurity threats?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're asking this question. There are two things that come to my mind. One is, as you said, there are way too many compliance frameworks. But the good news is there is a lot of commonality. So I'll tell you how I have solved this problem for my organization. At the end of the day, whether you look at NIST, you look at cloud security, cloud-specific frameworks, or you look at even things outside of US, like EMEA has their own regulation. Any framework that you pick has a lot in common. So one of the things that I have done for my organization, I have brought in a framework called Secure Control Framework. And think of Secure Control Framework as this big umbrella which has everything mapped to everything in the world. So instead of just worrying about every framework on its own, you take a big framework and you frame your work. So what we have done is, so today we are ISO 27001, ISO 27017, 18, SOC 2, SOC 3, HIPAA, Privacy Mark, CSA, bunch of, like, if I start counting, I'll just keep on counting. So we have too many compliance. So if I have a compliance team and I have all these frameworks managed separately, imagine the compliance fatigue. We go through every single framework all the time, making sure all the requirements are being addressed. But if you have a common framework, and there are many different names in the industry, it's like Unified Compliance Framework, Common Control Framework, Secure Control Framework. So I've adopted the Secure Control Framework, and basically what it is take all your compliance needs, put into one framework, you filter all this information, and then you see there's 60% commonality. And now as an organization, you address 60% of your needs as a common thing. And then 40% of the times you have some specific requirements coming from specific industries or region, then you address those. So we solve the compliance fatigue problem with that. We solve the evidence collection, the continuous monitoring, and we know that, we have a better way of structuring and organizing information. So that's what I have done. What advice that I have for the organizations who are dealing with a lot of compliance? One, align with your GTM, first and foremost. I often say security, gone are the days where security used to be a stick.
Mm.
That is not going to work anymore. You are the function of enablement. So work with your GTM organization, understand what regions, verticals they want to get into, get ahead of time, understand compliance in those regions, fulfill those requirements, and then find a better way of managing compliance through a common compliance framework and manage that work better.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's very important to be able to consolidate and view all of the control frameworks in one place. So that's a very helpful hint here. So Aisha, I want to just pivot a little bit away from your role as CISO and CIO. And I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you're also a life coach. And I very fascinated by that. And certainly in your role at Treasure Data and your prior organizations, you've built teams and you've motivated people on your team. So I wanted to ask you is about how can individuals cultivate a growth mindset to empower themselves personally, and how does this mindset contribute to unlocking their full potential in both professional and personal spheres?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking this question. I am super passionate about empowering people, and I feel security, IT, technology, whatever you want to call, it's my worldly gift. The spiritual gift that I have is to empower people. It's to actually more than empower, is to awaken them. And then once they're awakened, they will reach their own potential. So first of all, I would like to say how I've become a life coach and what is exactly it means to me. I feel I'm very much at the intersection of technology and humanity. Technology to me simply means, once humans reach their full potential, now whatever technology they have in hand, they are going to innovate in ways that is going to serve us better. So technology is here to serve humanity, not the other way around.
Interesting.
So with that, how people can cultivate a growth mindset. And I'll say a couple of things here and then I'll try to decode this. I actually wrote an article a few days ago, 2 days ago, I think, it called Life Decoded. So I'll use some of those points that I mentioned there. One, this is my observation. The first observation I have is almost 90% of the world, if not more, and actually I would say around 95 or more, is sleeping. And when I say sleeping, they have no idea how much power they have with this brain. Only if we can fix this machine, we can unlock our potential in ways that we haven't even imagined. There is a saying which I will try to explain a bit, which says, our thoughts create a reality, not the other way around. If you want to change your reality, change your thoughts. And that's where the mindset is important. If I break it down a little bit further, what I notice is the very first thing people need to do is just acknowledge that there is a problem. From my life coaching practices, one thing I explain to people is people exist on 3 levels. First is suffering, which I call self-inflicted suffering, anxiety, depression, lack of interest in anything that you do, procrastination. Second is surviving. If you have graduated from suffering to surviving, most people just stop at the surviving level. So they're like, okay, this is good enough. And why do I need to do more? And I would say a lot of that is because of our conditioning, our norms. It's like, okay, why do you have to be ambitious? Why do you have to do this? And I would say less than 1% of the world graduates from surviving to thriving. But only
100%.
Yes, less than 1%. I think that number is even less than 1%.
Yeah.
But the only difference between people who are suffering, surviving, and thriving is understanding is our mindset is the key. Once you realize that you are getting in your own way, things change. So acknowledgement of there is a problem, acknowledgement of realizing I am at a level which is not serving me well. And I don't care which God you believe in, whatever your school of thought is. I often say is happiness is our birthright. Living fullest to our potential, thriving is our birthright. We are not a coincidence. It's not an accident that we are here. Every single being that sent to this planet sent for a reason. We all have gifts, we all have passion, but you're only going to discover your gifts and passion if you understand you are getting in your own way. And the only thing is the problem is your mindset. So how do you cultivate? Acknowledge there's a problem, get on your path, start your inward journey. Meditation, that has worked for me. I can talk more about it, but I'm going to stop here. But how do you cultivate? Just look inward and see where the problem is, and then create a path from there.
Do you think the biggest hurdle for many people to start this journey is just that recognition, right? And also perhaps a willingness to make change for themselves. What other components do you think is critical to achieve that 1%?
You're right. Yes, first is the acknowledgement, but then even after acknowledgement, people actually, I'll tell you, this has happened to me. When I started my inward journey, acknowledgement was there that something is not working, something is not making sense. And I know I'm either suffering first, and then I am not surviving, but how do I get to the next level? When you are after acknowledging on that phase, what happens is a lot of your wounds, your fears, your anxiety, self-doubts, they all start coming up. And that is the point where you have to show the most compassion to yourself. It is coming up. And the very first point I said in that post that our anxiety, depression, don't look down upon it as a problem or a burden. Actually, these things are coming up because it's an indication. Your soul is showing you a mirror where you need to work, what needs healing. So after acknowledgement, realize things will come up. But what's coming up is what's need fixing.
Mm,
And then from there, once you show compassion, kindness to yourself, it will take time, trust, and compassion.
mm. Very interesting. And I encourage everyone on this podcast to read your Life Decoded article. Sounds like there's a lot more details that can be shared there.
Yeah.
But just going back to the aspects of leadership in many organizations, what more can organizations do to foster and support employees to take initiative, to express their creativity, and ultimately innovate in their respective roles?
Yeah, I believe in a formula which called 3 Ps: people, purpose, and performance.
Mm,
And purpose I often interchange with passion as well because purpose is a loaded word. So I'll explain that. My philosophy is pretty simple. Anyone that I hire in my organization or people that I come across, first and foremost, if you're hiring, hire people who are passionate about what they do. Whatever that role is, that's their passion. If you hire people with that passion, you don't have to manage their performance. That's number one.
absolutely.
Number two, once you have these people, don't micromanage. Micromanagement is the biggest waste of time for anyone. So hire the right people who are passionate. Don't worry about micromanaging. Set clear goals and direction. A lot of leaders go wrong there. Unset expectation. They first they go wrong in hiring, and then second, they will provide either no direction or they keep changing direction. Set clear goals, clear expectations with your team, and tell them what is the true North Star. And then if you have hired the right people who are self-motivating, then you will get the results. A lot of the time, if you see there are problems in the organization, I would say it has come down to this. Either you have a hiring problem or you have a strategy problem. Figure out where you have gone wrong.
Mm. Those are excellent points. I hear that all the time in terms of either the leadership, not articulating the clear goals or switching between, flip-flopping between expectations. So that's excellent advice. I know that Aisha, our time is always almost up for this podcast. So just want to ask you one more question in terms of how employees can educate and improve their skills. So do you have any tips in terms of
Yeah.
empowering and also educating people in the workforce to really be relevant in today's changing world and being able to contribute to innovation?
Yeah. And look, I'll be very direct here. I'm not going to talk about, hey, you have to only improve communication, you have to improve this and that. I'm going to get to exactly where I see the problem is. There
Great.
are 3 problems that I see in our current workforce. And when I say current workforce, actually all of humanity. So the 3 things are: number one, grit. Grit is the number one thing that gets you going. Life is not always going to be up. There are going to be downs as well. So make sure grit is there. Number two, emotional regulation. I kid you not how many times I've seen amazing leaders who are technically strong, but they lack emotional regulation. They are not getting constructive feedback. They are not collaborating. They don't have this emotional regulation and intelligence to connect with other people and collaborate. So cultivate that. And third, last but not least, I've been talking about it's the growth mindset. And growth mindset is one, become your absolute best version. Know that it's your birthright. But second, as you're becoming your best version, invest in others as well. A leader is a leader who's creating more leaders. If you are all about me, yes, you're going to go somewhere, but you're not going to go too far. So grit, emotional regulation, and growth mindset. Those are the three skills that I feel humanity in general is lacking, but especially in workforce. And if we address these three things, we all will reach our full potential.
And just to follow up on that, for in terms of grit, is that something that people can learn and practice, or do you think that's a inherent quality? Like, how can people get more gritty, so to
Great.
speak?
It is definitely a learned skill. I wasn't always like this. There have been times where I used to be very scared and afraid and doubtful and all of that. But what I've understood is change is the only constant. So if change is the only constant, how do I cope with it? And what I've realized is, well, determination is perseverance, knowing that there are going to be things in my control, and there are always, 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 I promise you, going to be things out of your control. So then why are you wasting your time thinking about things which are out of your control? All you got to do is think about how you're going to deal with things which are in your control.
Mm.
And through the life coaching, I often talk about is cleaning your energy field, which is knowing that all is well. Universe always has your back. If you have good intentions, you're doing your great work, you are giving back, you will always get great things back. So what are you afraid of? Whatever you give comes back to you. So if you are putting out negativity out there, it's going to come back. So yeah, that's what you should be scared of. So stop doing those things.
Wow. This is so fantastic, Aisha. I learned so much more than I expected than just a regular security compliance conversation. Um, Really having these great life coach advice as a leader as well as a individual human in this world. So thank you so much for your time today and for your comments. It's
Yeah.
greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. And I really hope this podcast help people take the next step in their journey and realize that it's not an accident that they are here. And if they have any feeling of doubts, fears, anxiety, there is a gift beneath it. Go discover.
Great advice. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.